This is episode 576. And today we're going to be discussing turning around bad habits. Now, this is a huge topic, and there are a lot of people out there are a lot of organizations, a lot of companies that specialize in, helping turn around bad habits. But we're going to just take a brief look at them today on this podcast. Bad habits can form without you even knowing it, and they can prove to be difficult to break. I mean, we all create bad habits one after another until we look at our life and going, this is not what I wanted. I didn't want to be overweight. I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to be broke. And we have to say what we don't want so we know what we do want. But a lot of this, our results are all based on our habits. And how, with habits though, however, it's always the first step that's the most difficult when we talk about breaking a habit or turning our habit around or transforming the habit. Once you get started, you'll build both momentum and confidence. And that's the key, is just getting started with something. Instead of overhauling everything, we just take a small step, and with proper focus and willingness to succeed, you'll find that you can overcome any bad habit. Then you can choose to replace that bad habit with a more positive one. And we could look at the terminology, replacing it, transforming it, whatever works, because the words, as you've heard in other podcasts, our words have power. Our words just don't describe, they create. So if replacing a habit sounds challenging, transforming might sound easier, or breaking a bad habit and putting a new one. Whatever that is, but we want to take whatever you're doing, a disempowering behavior, and we want to transform it to a empowering behavior. And before you can tackle the problem of replacing a bad habit with a good one, and I'm just going to use these terminologies interchangeably, you'll need to be mentally prepared to detach yourself from the habit. A strong mindset allows you to tackle nearly anything. And this is what's so important when you think about it is, are you wanting to break the habit because you want it? Or is it because your doctor told you? Is it because your significant other? Is it your boss? Because if you don't want to do it yourself, it will be next impossible to change it. Yeah, you may change it for a little bit, but if it doesn't come from you, if it doesn't come from this is the habit that I have right now. This is how it's negatively affecting my life. And then you can write down, here's the habit I want to put in, and this is how it is going to positively affect my life. Those are things that have to come from you, not from, again, your significant other, your kids, your family, your doctor, or whatever else it has to be. So really one of the first things you have to look at is it self-motivating? Are you self-motivated to change this habit? Because if you're not, it's not going to work that well. Now, the trick here is that all of our habits, whether we call them bad or good, serve us at some level. They provide something to us. And consciously, we may go, no, this is not a good habit, but unconsciously, it serves us. So this is where the mindset comes in. We need to be able to determine, here's how it's negatively affecting, here how it's positively affected, because you are going to face resistance. You're going to face it because those habits, regardless of what they are, have brought you to life where you are right now. And unconsciously, there's no reason to change because you're alive, you're fine. Everything is looking well. But so here are some tips to keep in mind as you prepare to transform your habits. Get organized by figuring out the bad pattern you'd like to break. Notice I just said pattern, not patterns. Start small with one habit at a time. Trying to change too much at once can overwhelm you. So here's what's funny. When you look at transforming your habits, and you start small and do it, you are now creating a new habit of transforming your habits. So you're empowering yourself to transform them. Some people may advise, transform the habit that'll have the biggest impact on your life. Well, that can work if you're working with a coach like myself and you have the mental strength and discipline to do it. You can work through it. However, if you don't have that support system in place, it's easier to start small. Let's just say you have a habit of not making your bed in the morning. Well, start with that. That's something very small. It's very easy to do, and you can work on. Then once you make your bed, maybe you then do your dishes, and then you start doing something else. And as you build up this energy of transforming your habits, the harder ones will become easier than trying to stop smoking immediately. That's the habit I'm going to do. Well, you still have the other ones that you could work on. So decide that you truly want to change. This is, again, you have to be committed to it. If you don't want to change, you simply won't. You can say you want to change, but you'll feel it inside like, I really don't want to. I like eating 10 donuts a day. But if, you have to look at what are those 10 donuts a day doing to you negatively. So unconsciously, if you do want to change, identify that, then identify the dangers, if you will, of staying with that habit, and then identify the positives of breaking that habit. Don't judge yourself. If you make a mistake, get back there and keep trying. Habits are not a reflection of who you are as a person. You are a good person. And a lot of times we have unsupportive habits and we criticize ourselves. Well, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm a bad person because I eat 12 Snickers bars in a day. I'm a bad person because I'm always late. I'm a bad person. The habits have nothing to do with how you are as a human being. So when you can remove the judgment of yourself, you're then going to be able to focus on the habit that you truly want to change. So one of the things to look at is substitution. The key to permanently breaking a bad habit lies in being able to replace it with a good one. The universe hates a void. I'm sure you've cleaned out your closet at some point in your clothes closet, your bedroom, and then within a couple of weeks, there's clothes back in it. Well, we want to not stop doing a habit. Stop in a habit creates a void, and that space, that time that you used for that bad habit is now sitting there. And that's a void, and most likely the bad habit will resurface. So we want to be able to say, when I feel this, I'm going to do this instead. If you engage in a bad habit and decide to simply stop entirely, it can be incredibly, incredibly tough, right? So you might be okay for a while, but chances are you'll find yourself back to your bad old habits. So, for instance, substitution. Let's say you come home from work, you're a little bit stressed out, and you are on this sugar kick, whether it's donuts or pastries or something, and you sit there and eat them. And when you're done, you're going, I got to stop this. Well, on the way home, you substitute maybe going for a walk. So instead of going up to in your home, or you just drop your stuff off real quick and then just walk around the block. Now, it doesn't matter how long you walk, but the habit is when you come home, you go for a walk. When you come home, you go for a walk. When you come home, you go for a walk. Instead of come home, have sugar, come home, have sugar. So you're substituting one habit for another. And it's just one day at a time, right? So when you look at it doing one day at a time, you can feel great with that. A lot of smokers substitute, smoking with lollipops, but then they go back to smoking. So part of this also is we want to understand what is going on beneath the surface in order to have this substitution work greatly, right? Again, we want to make a list of those things that maybe not that could be negatively affecting us, and the things that we want to positively affect us. And again, we can look at substitutions in many, many ways. Instead of watching TV, we know it's a bad habit. We could then read a book, and we And it just has to be for 5 minutes, right? Because then when you read it for 5 minutes, then you can read it for 10, you can read it for 15, you can read it for 20. So we want to make sure that we start off small. Going back to the example of taking a walk, you come home, you leave your stuff in the car, and you walk around the block, which may take you 5 minutes. Great. You come inside, and then you do what you normally would do after you, quote, eat your sugar. So if you come home, you eat your sugar, you start getting dinner ready, you go for a walk, you start getting dinner ready. And then the next day, you maybe go for 10 minutes. And the next day, and so you keep expanding it until you're at a point where like you really look forward to taking that walk before you go inside. So substitutions can be really, really powerful because you're taking the energy that you put into a disempowering habit and moving it to an empowering habit. So it doesn't take willpower because you're using the same energy. You're just using that energy differently. And again, we want to talk about fulfill your needs. You must learn to fulfill your needs in a healthy way because we're talking about bad habits, disempowering habits that have a adverse or negative effect on you. So what we want to do is make sure we find ways to support yourself in a healthy way. Chances are you've developed a bad habit because of an underlying need. And identifying this need and finding positive ways to fulfill it is the key to turning around a bad habit. You might need to do a little soul searching here, a little coaching in order to find the true underlying cause for your bad habits. Some of them can be very significant, such as overconsumption of alcohol because there's a pain within you that you're trying to deaden, and that would take on a more therapeutic approach. But think about it. In the wintertime or anytime, there's this expression called comfort food. I want some comfort food. Well, comfort from what? So what do we need? What do you need comfort from? Well, I had a tough day at the office. So if you had a tough day at the office, instead of having potatoes, biscuits, gravy, and comfort food, maybe go to the gym. Maybe do something else that supports, because that's usually it's an energy buildup, and we transmute it by a not so powerful habit. So we can take that again and move it into another one. A lot of times when I work with clients who smoke, I go, what do you like about it? Well, I can breathe deep and I can hang out with my friends. And so there's this being able to breathe and hang out with friends. Well, you can do breathing exercises and perhaps start a meditation or a breathing group at work. And instead of everybody going out for a smoke, go out for a 10-minute breathing meditation. So there are many ways to fulfill those needs, find what those needs are, and then go ahead and substitute them. But just keep in mind, you might engage in many negative actions because you don't feel needed and loved the way you think you deserve. The key, though, is you need to love yourself first and then do the habits that support someone who loves themselves. And this is the root of the problem that we often ignore, is that we don't if we don't feel needed, we don't feel wanted, we don't feel loved. And so we participate in bad habits, and those habits deaden that pain, if we will. So we then have to address that at another level. Masking the pain with self-destructive habits is clearly not going to solve the issue. And that self-destructive habit can be something really significant as substance abuse, or something minor. Even exercise can be a self-destructive habit. If you are so caught up and you go to the gym 3 hours every day, 4 hours every day, because you avoid going home because you don't feel loved, because that can be a bad habit. Overuse of an exercise, overuse of anything can be a disempowering habit. So instead, discuss your concerns with your family, friends, health professional, a coach like me, and be proactive in solving it. These are things that takes courage to say, I'm not feeling loved, so I do this behavior, or I don't feel I'm worth it, so I don't do the dishes. It takes courage to go ahead and address those things. But once you do, you then can create great supportive habits to help you live a fun, joyful, and happy life. And it's those supportive habits that will bring joy to you. So if you'd like to see the show notes for this podcast, you can fly over to warriormindcoach.com. You can see the show notes there, see the show notes there on other podcasts, and read some blogs and find out how to get in touch with me. And since you'll be on the internet, you can follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, all under Warrior Mind Coach.